Hi there, all you good folks. Welcome to VGMporium. Today I got another grab bag for you. Oh yes, the grab bag. It's always something to look forward to whenever you go to a shop. You never know what's inside. It's always a good mix of things. Before we go any further, I am the proprietor of VGMporium, Rage Cage, if you already know that. And let's just get into what's inside this bag. And the first thing you heard today is Retrograde from the Stars. It is by Master Jace Beats. And this is a remix of Desert Zone from Star Cruiser, originally composed by Toshiya Yamanaka. And this is some good stuff. It sounds like he's taken kind of the bass and the main melody and just kind of looped that section over and over again and added his own beats and kind of backing stuff to it. And yeah, no, I really enjoy this one. And the one who did this, Master Jace Beats, does a lot of these tracks. So he's done this, one with Thunder Force, Bomberman 64, and Ground Seed, for example. He'll take the original audio, manipulate it some way, and then add just beats and some backup stuff to it. But this is a side account for his main account, Jace, where he actually just does a lot of arrangements, remixes, and originals, mainly using, I think I saw the FM7 DST plugin. And it's all really good stuff, so I'm going to be linking his SoundCloud in the show notes. So moving right along, let's see what we got next in this bag here of ours. Ooh, I hope you're ready for a funky time, baby. We got Saxophone Storm 11, Iori's theme, from King of Fighters 11, composed by Koji Takata, Masuo Okumura, and Masanori Kuki. That was Saxophone Storm 11, or also known as Arashi no Saxophone, the theme of Iori Yagami, from King of Fighters 11, composed by Koji Takata, Masuo Okumura, and Masanori Kuki. And I remember being pretty excited for this one coming out on the PS2, because around that time I was really getting into King of Fighters, emulating it via MAME. And I actually pre-ordered it alongside Neo Geo Battle Coliseum. And I gotta say, it was a pretty fun time. Yeah, like, at first I was kind of off-put by the music because, before I was emulating the older arcade games, and those were all, like, FM and sampled music, like, those really crunchy sampled guitars. But then it kind of grew on me, like, that kind of clean sound and all. It was, pretty good. And this was actually the last King of Fighters to use the older, the older sprite work, like, so this is, like, a really big showcase for that before they moved on to those really high-definition, like, chunky, like, hand-drawn sprite animations, which were just, like, so beautiful. And hey, they got Duck King in there. And, this wasn't one of those Dream Match games. This was actually part of the, that story arc that was going on at the time, the Crimson Ash story arc, whatever it was. And they got Duck King in there, I didn't really have, like, any things for him. It's just more because I remember his music from the Fatal Fury Real Bout 2. That's a ridiculous track. But alas, we must stop dwelling on the King of Ducks and continue digging into this bag. Let's see here, what do we got? Ooh, this is a biggin'. We got us some Triple Trouble here, and not of the Game Gear Sonic variety. These, in fact, come from Cave Story, and this is Jenka 1, 2, and Labyrinth Fight, composed by Daisuke Pixel Amaya. That wacky batch of tracks you just heard was Jenka 1, also known as Jenka's House, and Labyrinth INH, Jenka 2, or Labyrinth W, and Labyrinth Battle, Labyrinth M, from the original version of Cave Story, composed by Daisuke, Pixel, Amaya. And what do I mean by original version? Well, this is the version that was the free release, all purely developed by Pixel back in 2004, before it got like critical attention and got all the reports and remakes and remasters and all that stuff. Though I didn't really come across this game until about 2010 alongside Yume Nikki. And they're like two great examples of games where Cave Story is kind of linear, Metroidvania, kind of pretty much gives you the story along the way. Yume Nikki is just open-ended, obtuse. The story is just kind of there if you want to discover it. But getting back to Cave Story, so how did these three get all bunched together? Well, they all kind of feel like the same part of the story here, story arc. So whereas the first one is you get thrown into a labyrinth and you're kind of wandering around. And then the second one is you're actually getting it, meeting enemies and going through is getting more action-packed, and you meet Curly Brace and you try to help her recover. You go fight Monster X and get whatever helps her recover. And then you both go through, get into Labyrinth M, where it's both of you fighting alongside each other, and it's triumphant, what's playing right now. So isn't that a fun thing? And what's a fun thing is that within the files of the original Cave Story game, Pixel actually put the program that he made his music with in there called Org Music Maker. And it's just a little a DAW. It has all the samples that he used of the waveforms and everything and the percussion sounds, and you can actually create your own tracks using a piano roll. And it's I kind of played around with it. I haven't actually finished anything with it, but I do have something that's halfway finished on there from 10 years ago. And I'll tell you, a lot of the sounds are definitely inspired by the PC Engine and MSX. But let's keep digging. We're not getting quite to the bottom yet. We're almost there, but let's see what we got here. And we got another remix. This is H5N1, a remix of Dungeon of Ice from Mystic Quest, remixed by Christian Picard, originally composed by Ryuji Sasai and Yasuhiro Kawakami.
Dossier de la grippe aviaire maintenant. 2 nouveaux décès ont été confirmés en Indonésie. Une femme de 19 ans et un garçon de 8 ans sont morts après avoir contracté le virus. Ils auraient été en contact avec des poulets infectés. La confirmation de ces décès survient alors que la Banque mondiale annonce le déblocage de 5 millions de dollars pour aider les pays pauvres à combattre la grippe aviaire. Pendant ce temps, en Chine, les autorités prennent toutes les précautions pour éviter la propagation du virus H5N1. Hier encore, de nouveaux foyers de la grippe aviaire ont été découverts. Les zones touchées ont été décontaminées et mises en quarantaine. Au total, c'est plus de 350 000 volailles qui ont été abattues. On ignore encore l'étendue de l'épidémie, mais des chercheurs de Shanghai ont décidé de s'y attaquer. Philippe Rochaud de France 2 nous présente son reportage sur place.
La route vélo, c'est l'un des transporteurs du virus de la grippe aviaire qui se loge dans les excréments de volailles. Alors on désinfecte à l'entrée des villages infectés. Le virus H5N1 a frappé ici un élevage de poulets. Du coup, dans les élevages des environs, comme chez ces poules tondeuses, le personnel est consigné et ne mange plus de poulet, 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 et ne mange plus de poulet.
Depuis que j'ai commencé à nourrir ces poules, je ne sors plus de la ferme. C'est interdit.
La Chine a vacciné plus de 10 millions de poulets avec un vaccin de son invention contesté. Mais cela n'empêche pas les foyers de se déclarer. Le virus de la grippe aviaire est étudié au jeune Institut Pasteur de Shanghai. Les 8 chercheurs chinois, comme le professeur Wang, les 8 chercheurs chinois formés aux États-Unis veulent aller très vite.
H5. Le plus important est d'empêcher le virus de se propager. Il faut réagir rapidement. Nous faisons donc surtout un travail de recherche et de prévention. Recherche et de prévention. Recherche et de prévention.
L'Institut Pasteur de Shanghai va étudier la structure du virus et devenir un observatoire privilégié de l'évolution de la grippe aviaire en Asie. Nous avons défini une stratégie qui est, pour l'instant, de ne pas ouvrir un laboratoire dédié entièrement à la grippe aviaire, mais d'utiliser l'expertise, le savoir-faire de plusieurs de nos laboratoires pour une partie des recherches qui pourraient être dédiées à la grippe aviaire. La Chine a promis à l'Organisation mondiale de la santé de jouer la transparence sur cette épidémie de grippe aviaire. Mais le temps n'est pas si loin où les épidémies en Chine étaient considérées comme des secrets d'État.
That was H5N1, a remix of Dungeon of Ice from Mystic Quest, remixed by Christian Pakad and originally composed by Ryuji Sasai and Yasuhiro Kawakami. And before I go any further, the reason why my voice just changed all of a sudden is because I'm coming back the day after doing multiple takes of very loud yelling. And that's going to be showing up in another podcast soon. Whether it's going to be coming out before or after this episode, I'm not sure, but hey, keep your ears out for that one. So now this remix. It was part of a remix compilation album hosted by Overlooked Remix, one of my favorite remix sites. And yeah, it was called Mystic Quest, as in MISS, because in many Final Fantasy fans' eyes, this was most definitely a miss on Square's part. Because they felt that US audience wasn't ready for the advanced stuff that was going on in their mainline Final Fantasy games. So they created this, and in Japan it's known as Final Fantasy USA, so what does that tell you? But the one good thing that came out of this game was most definitely the OST. And this remix compilation was definitely proof of that appreciation of this OST. Though OLR is known for its kind of more not serious jokey style remixes. This stuff was actually, most of it was pretty good. And Christian Pakad here was actually a big contributor to it. But the big compilation was put on by Joe Cam, who I imagine some of the guys that are a little older remember from MagFest and everything way back in the early 2000s. And this was his kind of farewell to Overlooked Remix, which he had been a part of, for that first year. And he was just moving on. And so the mix of remixes on here are fair from pretty good like this one to, the usual OLR fare. I'm looking at you, the poot. So now this remixer, Christian Pakad, he only showed up in OLR for this remix album because he was primarily part of Overclocked Remix up until about 2009. And I was kind of looking him up, and it looks like he's still doing music, posting videos on YouTube. So I would imagine the name Christian Pakad is all too common, and that there would be two musician Christian Pakads. But hey, the world is a wonky, wacky place. And speaking of wonky and wacky, yes, the name H5N1 is in reference to the avian flu, the bird flu. But around at this time, when this came out, 2006, is when we had H1N1, swine flu going around. And remember that scare? So I'm just going to kind of guess that all the talking we hear throughout the remix is just French news reports talking about H5N1 at some point. But enough about that. It's time to get down to the bottom of the grab bag. This is The Labyrinth by Masaya Shiranaga. was The Labyrinth by Masaya Shiranaga. And this is an original song made on the NEC PC using the YM2608, just opting to use the FM and the SSG and none of the preset sample channels. And this right here, folks, is part of a batch of songs I found in my search for, my budding search for FM music back in 2007. Because that was the time I was starting my deep dive into everything chiptune. So, be it, like Commodore 64, Game Boy, NES, you name it, I was looking for it. And I was looking for, like, FM music. And at the time, the only kind of FM I really understood was, like, either regular synthesizers or Sega Genesis music. So when I found this stuff, I really didn't know what it was. Like, this is my first exposure to, like, music from the NEC PC. And I had no idea what that was. And wouldn't know for another, like, 4 years. So if I'm remembering correctly, I think I found this through the Dogpile Music Search, that magical little thing again, and I was just looking for FM music, and I came across this Japanese site, didn't know what anything was saying, but, it had links to music, and I listened to it, and it was all awesome, and all I had was just this name, M.S. So that's all I had for a long while. And, fast forward many years later, and, I come across this game called Variable Geo 2 on VGM Rips, and I listened to it, and a couple of the songs sound very familiar, and there's this name, Masaya Shiranaga. So I go looking up this name, and, hey, for sure, this is the guy. And so I found his YouTube, and there's, like, a couple tracks on there that had the same name of those songs that I found on the site. And then it wouldn't be until maybe, like, last year or so that I actually found his SoundCloud as MS Mayonnaise, and on Twitter. And there he has even more, like, music made, like, using FM, like, they're called, like, the PMD versions. But only maybe 1 or 2 of the songs are the same songs that are on that website I found, which is no longer active. So as far as I know, I'm, like, maybe one of the only few people other than Masaya himself that has, like, these tracks. So now, what can I tell you about Masaya Shiranaga? Well, his only real game credit is Variable Geo 2, The Bout of the Kabbalistic Goddess. And I should note that he only contributed, like, a few tracks to this. And it was, like, a fighting game on the NEC PC that was ported to various other computers and systems. But for the most part, he was part of the PC doujin scene in Japan, kind of like the equivalent of the European demo scene. Though doujin does cover indie and fan-made stuff as well. But please go ahead and correct me if I'm wrong, because, yeah, I'm not totally familiar with, like, the whole doujin stuff. And it's still pretty active in it. Like, on VGMDB alone, like, there's, like, 60 albums, like, with him credited in them. So I'll be linking his SoundCloud, where, he's done a lot of, like, FM music, music for the PC Engine or and the TurboGrafx 16, a lot of instrumental stuff, and some Vocaloid stuff. And I'll also be leaving a drive link of a zip file of all those songs I found way back in 2007 on that website that is no longer active. So, because, like I said, I don't think there's any place else that can be found, and I want others to enjoy it. They're all just so good, and I've been listening to them for about maybe 15 years now, and, I still don't get tired of them because they're just so dang good. And you want to know what else is so dang good? All of you choosing to come into VGMporium and listen to this madman ramble. And if you want to hear more of our ramblings, you can find VGMporium on all your favorite podcatchers like Google, Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, Audible, as well as on your social media such as Twitter and Instagram. And you can find myself, the proprietor, your host, Rage Cage, on all those social medias, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and as well as on SoundCloud for all my original musics. Now, as far as what I've got for you next week, well, I'm taking 2 ideas that I got from 2 different peoples, one Martyrus and Haberchuck, and I'm mashing them together. So look forward to that.